HR leaders, what's on your mind these days? Is it AI? Is it the economy? The talent market? Remote work? Retention? DEI? Pay transparency? New laws? Our 2024 Workplace Trends Report outlines how HR leaders are thinking about these challenges and what they believe will help their organizations overcome them. Want to find out what they said? Head on over to peoplemanagingpeople.com/Workplace Trends 2024 and download the report to find out.
16 cease and desists. 16 members of Congress asked them to stop. 5 subpoenas. 2 statewide bills introduced to ban the company all within 1 month. Can you imagine that? What would you do? Quit? Give up? Or would you push forward? My guest today, Madison Campbell, co-founder and CEO of Leda Health, a company that is seeking to not only revolutionize forensic collection and testing, but also to connect sexual assault survivors with medical professionals and supportive communities to aid them in their recovery process. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Reitzma, the resident host of People Managing People. Welcome to the podcast. We're people managing people, and we want to lead and manage better. We're owners, founders, entrepreneurs, we're middle managers, we're team leaders. We're managing people, and yes, we do human resources. But we're not HR, at least not in the traditional sense. We're on a mission to help people lead and manage their teams and organizations more effectively. So if you want to lead and manage better, if you want to become a better organizational leader and more effective people manager, then join us. Keep listening to the podcast to find the tips, tricks, and tools you need to recruit, retain, manage, and lead your people and organization more effectively. And while listening to the show, please subscribe and join our mailing list on peoplemanagingpeople.com to stay up to date with all that's going on. Welcome, Madison. It's such a pleasure to have you on the People Managing People podcast. I just was really intrigued by your journey and your story. And so thanks for taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you for having me. I am excited to be here.
Yeah, I know we're in the intro. I'm sure if people are extremely intrigued, and we're going to get into that kind of straight away. And I'd just love you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your company, and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, trials and tribulations, I tell you. Grew up very humble beginnings. I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a small town called Bridgeville. Single mother, only child. Really loved musical theater, dance, acting, opera singing. That was kind of my deal. I thought I wanted to be on stage or be an entertainer, be an actress, something along those lines. Turns out maybe I got more media doing this than I would have been back in acting. That was kind of my life growing up. I was always kind of, very, very interested in innovation, right? I had always fought for what I believed in, even at a young age. I remember one of the first things that I fought for at a young age was actually trying to change a rule in my 8th grade, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when I was in 8th grade at the library, they had a rule of how many books that you could take out at a time. And I was a very avid reader, right? I love to read. I love to, take out as many books, bring them home. And there was a rule of how many books you could take out. And there was also a rule of underclassmen, so, people in 8th grade and below, being able to take out upperclassmen books, so 9th to 12th grade. And I fought that rule. And I had this big, stink with my principal and had my, mother coming up to the high school and having to kind of petition my case. So rule breaking and, standing up for what I believe in, even in small little things like that, where I don't agree, has been kind of in my blood. And I've been very, very glad and happy that I've had parents who supported that. And instead of saying, oh, you should have just, done what the rule said, they said, well, if you don't agree with something, you better have a good reason, but I'll support it. Right. And that kind of brought me into, going into entrepreneurship. So in college, I studied epidemiology. Specifically around Epstein-Barr virus was my passion. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And then, right when I was going to apply for kind of higher education, so PhD programs, Trump was elected, and a lot of the grants that I was going out for got cut within the first 90 days of the administration. So I had all these dreams of academia that kind of, went downhill in a way. And I wanted to try to continue figuring out, how am I going to innovate? How am I going to create these new crazy ideas? And entrepreneurship felt like the way to do that. And so I really took something that personally afflicted me when I was in college, which was my sexual assault whenever I went abroad to University of Edinburgh. And I decided to really look into the problem around sexual assault reporting, looking at my own situation, asking myself why I did not report, why I did not get resources, and then trying to create a world, the world that I wish that, I would have been able to live in, of resources that are plentiful and have the ability to really empower survivors. And so that's kind of how I created Leda Health. Our main product is very controversial. It is the first at-home sexual assault evidence collection kit. You would think that it's not that controversial, right? It, swabs in a box. But the notion of allowing victims of sexual assault, survivors of sexual assault, to collect their own evidence, have their own autonomy over their own body, is apparently a very controversial and political issue, which kind of led into all of the stuff that you introduced me about, all the cease and desist, all the kind of backlash.
Wow. That's incredible. I would think that, I was reading a bit about your bio and the history of your company, and it sounds like there's opportunity for a lot of improvement with the collection and to support the victims of sexual assault. So, like, what kind of led to all this backlash?
So I sent out an email, mass email, to a lot of people. And one of those emails went out to Michigan State University. They were not that happy to receive my email, considering the fact that, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but the Larry Nassar case happened at Michigan State University. And so, they had been under fire for the way that they handled sexual assaults, or should I say, did not handle sexual assaults well, for a multitude of years. They sent it over to the Attorney General, who, without ever talking to us, sending us an email, even, getting to hear our side of the story, issued us a cease and desist letter. And then went into the press, and then went to every other attorney general in the country. And then within a month, everything stacked on. I was doing 9 interviews a day. We've been mentioned in the press over 1,000 times. At the end of the month, we had 600 to 900 appearances per day, from local news, covering the story every single day, which was insane. I mean, we were getting death threats. We were getting reporters breaking into our office. It was a really crazy time.
That's incredible. And I can't even imagine that journey. I think of entrepreneurship, and you're trying to maybe come up with a social app, and you think, I'm just going to give up because it's not working. But you're still here, and you're still pushing and to change. And as I said in the intro, to revolutionize this area. And when we connected offline, and I was watched a couple of your talks, the word resilience came to mind.
Yeah.
And what keeps you going? Like, it's just, what does resilience mean to you?
Sometimes I don't know how I continue going. And maybe I'm just saying that because we're recording on a Friday and I'm tired from, the week of having to be resilient, but it's tough. Like, it's not something that I think it comes naturally to me as a trauma survivor, being able to kind of take the trauma and still continue on living every single day. But it is extremely difficult. I mean, during that time, I never thought about giving up, actually, thought about closing the company. But there were many a time where I was like, wow, I wish this would just end right now. I should not, I just wish that it would end. All the press, right? Just give me a break. Give me some time to prove that what I'm doing could actually, change the world. I wanted time, right? I kept asking for time. Eventually I got time. Now we've had plenty of time, and so I kind of miss the craziness of everything because my adrenaline was high. I felt like I was, fighting this big war, and it was very exciting. And it was difficult to stay resilient, but in those moments where I thought about giving up, I thought about the mission of what I was doing and how passionate about the product and about, the idea. And that passion gave me the ability to really wake up every single day and get a text message from Liesl, who's my co-founder, which would say one state. All I would do is I would wake up in the morning and I would get a text message from Liesl, and it would say Maryland, like Hawaii, Alaska. Wow. And Liesl did not have to say anything else, but one state, and I knew exactly, or like Maxine Waters, and I was like, actually, I think she didn't, whenever we got the congressional letter, Liesl did not say Maxine Waters. Liesl wrote me a text message that said Congress. And I was like, oh, but I don't know. I did it somehow.
Yeah. And your company's growing and your company's still here. And so not only are you resilient, I just think of all the people that work for you. So how old is the company now? And have you pivoted? Have you changed the vision at all, or the mission? Tell us a little bit about where the company started, and even in terms of people, and where you are now.
When we started, we were a 2-woman shop in a very small Brooklyn office, and now in our Slack, and there of course are part-time people, right, in our Slack. We have 84 people.
84. Wow.
I checked the number right before this call because I wanted to. Now, of course, there's people that are kind of here in a part-time capacity. Maybe they do a few hours a week, but 84, and we actually removed people who left, after the summer. During the summer, we had a flux of tons of people. So 84 people in our Slack that are actively working on the company.
And so, the company is producing at-home kits as well as the processing. And what else are you up to in Leda?
So this kind of goes back into the question of like, did you pivot? So, for all intents and purposes, we're still doing the same thing. We rebranded, and we're now Leda Health, mostly because we wanted to have a more holistic solution. And that includes not only doing the at-home rape kits, but also doing STD testing, support groups, teletherapy, telemedicine, and offering emergency contraceptive to the survivor. So really a holistic community that, from the moment you're sexually assaulted all the way from the moment that you're getting justice, telling your parents, telling the community that you're in what happened to you, we want to be there every step of the way.
That's incredible. I just want to applaud you for not giving up. I think so many entrepreneurs and people that I've known who have started businesses and things don't go their way, or 6 months in, they're just like, nah, maybe we'll change. But sticking to your vision and the purpose of the organization to get you out of bed every day, that in itself is a lesson in resilience, but also having a vision and a mission that you're bought into. And
I think it's important. Not only was it a vision and mission, but it was what people wanted. And so I think that if you go out and build a company and then you have to pivot because no one wants what you're selling, that's probably a good idea, right? You did not get product market fit. But from the beginning of our company, we were being told by survivors, this is what they wanted. This would have changed their life. They would have collected evidence if they would have had this. And the only people that were opposing us were essentially legislators, right? Like these people at this high level. Who are they to determine what we as sexual assault survivors want, right? And I'm sure that a lot of these legislators too, maybe have stories of their own, but that their story and what they want to do and their views should not determine these 77 to 90% of people that don't report, who see what we're doing as an additive and as a service that they really want.
Yeah. So maybe walk us through that a little bit of all these legislators want to shut you down. They want to silence you. And from your own personal story to people who are, also other survivors are saying, no, we need this. So, and your company's still around. So you can't just ignore the legislators. So what changed?
I think what changed was COVID, actually. So COVID created this cultural change of a lot of people realizing that the way that we have been doing things for a long time will not work. And so there's been this massive cultural change where legislators are finally opening up to the fact that we have to do at-home testing. We have to do telemedicine. Emergency rooms are getting full. Like, we can't operate in the same way that we were operating before. And so really what has changed, and, COVID has been horrible for so many people, specifically domestic violence and sexual assault survivors, but it has been good in one specific way, that it has created a culture change of individuals that understand and know why we need this product to be out there.
Wow. And so that, I can imagine, is just changing the tune of politicians. Hearing that this is a product that is critical in this time. Is that true?
To an extent. I mean, I'm still waiting to hear back from some of the folks that opposed us very early on, and to see if they still want to, look, if I was a politician and I made such an adamant stance against something, I don't know how much I would want to go out and say, oh, you know what? I was wrong. I was an idiot, right? Like, my bad, So I think there's going to be some politicians that are definitely not going to want to go out there and say, hey, I fucked up, no big deal. Just, forget everything I said. I was wrong. When have you ever heard a politician say that they were wrong, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking in my mind here in British Columbia, we're going through an election, and, or in the States, there's an election. So we're not going to get political, but I'm thinking, watching the different debates and campaigns, and yeah, it's not common. It's not common for people, even in general, to admit they're wrong, even though humility is such a, we could do a whole podcast on why we should be doing, and doing that and owning up to our mistakes. But so I just kind of want to chat about your team. So you've grown the company to 84, blend of full-time, part-time over the last couple of years. And with COVID, you've said you've seen an uptick in your business. Which is it's great to see that you're still going and going strong. And so how do you keep your team engaged? Being remote, were you remote before? Or fully dispersed, or what? We
were half dispersed, half not dispersed. So we definitely had people that were not working in the office every day, and we're very flexible workplace. So we've always had the ability to kind of live on Slack. So the transition wasn't as bad for us as it was in some of these big companies. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to retain engagement, and we found early on when we kind of started growing the company. So back in March, we went from so back last year we were 2, and then at the end of last year we were around 5. In the beginning of this year, we were about 8, and then we went to 60. It was 860, right?
Oh, jeez. Okay.
And so we failed a lot at trying to get people engaged, but we also realized that we went through this time period, and we would essentially call it this 2-week period where you got to know us and we got to know you, and it was no big worry if after the 2-week period you want to leave and you don't want to work here, and same with us. So that's kind of what we did to really figure out culture wise, is this person going to fit in? And usually culture wise, the person who does really good at our company is a self-starter. So somebody who doesn't really need to be told what to do, but is coming up with ideas of what to do. And that sometimes you don't naturally find until around 2 weeks, like of getting to know that person in the job. So we made it super open-ended where we were like, look, like we acknowledge that we're this crazy startup. We're trying to move really fast. We're trying to do these big things. Let's bring you in, see if you like it. And if you don't, no big deal. You know, it's not a big deal. You go your way, we'll go ours. And that's kind of how we did a lot of our placements early on. And that's kind of how we ended up finding like what worked for folks is the folks that actually stayed around who were very, very active in the community were the ones who ended up staying with us and continue to stay with us.
I like that. Thinking about, I work full time in a people and culture position, and different jurisdictions, different places. There's probationary periods, but I like that kind of no pressure. Let's get to know each other for 2 weeks and see if it's a fit. And that way, it's it's kind of a mutual decision. Then, if you need to. Somebody needs to move on, or they're going to, do well in an organization. And so I was reading an article on Medium, and you talked about happy hours. And so let's walk us through that, because a lot of organizations are fully remote or trying to figure out what is the new norm, and communication has come up in numerous conversations amongst peers and friends within organizations. So talk us through this idea of your happy hours. I love it.
Happy hours are literally when we get on Zoom and we all get like wasted with alcohol. and that's our way of doing it. Like we'll all get, and this is when, some of like the senior officers, not just myself and my co-founder, but our general counsel, right? Like, we'll all drink a little bit and we'll tell our stories. And it's a very private space where we do it department by department. So, it's only really that department getting, and we do also interdepartment stuff, but we really focus on like getting to know the people that you're, talking back and forth with on Zoom every day in a very like, very fun environment over alcohol, most likely, or whatever substance that the individual prefers. And that has been like a way that we've been able to create friendships outside of the workplace. I mean, there are people in our workplace that met working for us and, they left, they were only here for the summer and now are, very, very close friends, which is really awesome. Like that we've been able to create that. I mean, two of my like kind of like senior leaders, in the company are now best friends. Like they're visiting each other. They are doing all that kind of stuff, which is absolutely crazy and insane.
Wow. Yeah, it's trying to build that remote connection, and sounds like you found a way that makes it work for you and your team. And do you get a lot of participation?
We do. So we get a lot of participation. We did when we first started. Now that kind of school has gone back in session, and a lot of folks are working either in school, not in school, not as much. But yeah, we do get a lot of participation.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like that's just been an incredible journey from, even since what you said, March, from 8 people to 60. And how do you manage that growth? I guess you've handled a whole lot more. And so with legal battles but how do you know that growth? How do you deal with that growth? Because your culture could change overnight.
So this is something that I think is an interesting question, because I figured out how to handle it, and I don't know if this would work with everybody, but this is what I do. One, so you have this 2-week period, right, where you're really trying to like suss out the person, try to figure out like who they are, what type of person are they? Are they a follower? Are they a leader? In that 2-week, process, I really am able to see who's going to be a leader. And the thing that we do in the company is promote quickly, like promote 2 weeks in, 1 month in, right? Like,
okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I know that sounds like, a crazy thing to do in most companies, but that's kind of how politics works a lot of times. So politics generally, like, and when you're running a political campaign, you can come in as an intern and you can work super hard, and then you're, somehow chief of staff, or something like that. It's a very like cutthroat environment, but it's based off of, how fast are these people moving? And that's kind of how we think about our company, very much like a political campaign. And that would be kind of the culture as well, if I were to describe it. So we bring in people. I immediately know, the team immediately knows, are they going to be a leader? Are they going to be a follower? If we identify them as a leader early on, and we know, and I'm wondering if you kind of figure that out too in your position. Like, do you know automatically if someone's going to be a leader or not? Because we see it, and we try to, positively reinforce the fact that they can be a leader in the company by giving them a promotion within the first month.
Yeah, I see it in the organization that I'm involved in. If we're interviewing candidates, bringing people in, we could tell pretty quickly who's going to be, coming out as a leader in a team. We also see, in my position, people in the organization, and anybody has access to reach out to me for coaching. And so there are people who are very, very much self-starters who say, "Hey, Tim, I need help in this area. Can you help me? Can you coach me? How should I deal with this situation?" Because they're just eager to learn, eager to grow, and either move up in a hierarchy or an org structure, or to just better themselves. And so I don't fault either way. There's people who are great individual contributors, and we need people who will just be heads down and get work done. And so, we can assess that pretty quickly, and other managers in the organization assess that talent pretty quickly as well.
Yeah. And I think that's, I love, and there's a bunch of people on my team who wanted to be heads down and, do what they came in to do and nothing more. And that's great. You need that in an organization, but you also need to quickly identify who's going to be a leader. Mm-hmm. And we've been very good at identifying who's going to be a leader. Even myself, right? Myself and my co-founder have identified leaders before other people in the team have, simply because we know what we're looking for, right? Like, we know who's going to succeed here. We know who has the guts to be here through kind of all the craziness. And so I guess we also do have a bar for like looking for crazy people, right? It's like, how crazy are you? What level of crazy? And if so, there you go. Now manage 5 people. And we've done that, by the way. We've brought in people. They've been here for 2 weeks and we're like, you know what? We really see the potential. We're going to give you 5 people underneath you. And I've done that. And
wow.
Yeah. And that's how we build. We're like, I see it. And every single person who I have identified as a leader has stayed. So, what does that say? Right.
Yeah. It's like, just cut out all the bureaucracy and go with, so sometimes your gut instinct. And say, hey, are you up for the challenge? Versus you have to pass these 3 or 4 assessments in order to get to that next level. It's like, no, what's the point? What is
with that? Like, like, I could never work. Well, never is a big word, but I feel like corporation and would not be a great place for me, because I would come in and be like, if I see somebody doing something wrong, I'd be like, I should have their job. And I'll tell you why. Like, they're doing this wrong. So, that should be me, right? And they'd be like, oh, no, there's a process. You have to be here for years. I'm like, what? Like, I can do a better job than this. Like, that has always been my way. It's like, even since I was a young girl, it's like, oh, I understand this. I can do a better job. So I'm going to go do that now. And that's how I live life. And that's how I want companies to be. But, let's talk in like 5 years and see if this culture actually pays off or it's, toxic. And that's my biggest fear. Are we creating this crazy toxic culture where we give people so much responsibility up front and then it becomes overwhelming? And it definitely could do that,
Yeah, it could. And that's where you get to the point of growth of, okay, how do we support our leaders and management's leadership, some training resources and help. But it sounds like you're really in tune with your team, and the people on your team, and if they're struggling or if they're overwhelmed, and getting them the resources that they need. And so I think that's also critical as you continue to grow.
Like, everyone, when they're stressed out in the company, we just get them like spend $90 on Uber Eats for them. We're like, here you go. And that makes them happy. Or like, I've bought spa packages for some of the executive leaders, or like a little vacation out to, a cabin, or a plane ticket out to California. Like that is, I kind of ask them, I'm like, what do you want to do? What would make you happy? And I go there. And I don't know. We have no rhyme. We have no like system in place where it's like, here is like, the company's 5 things that you can do. You can pick an Uber Eats order or go to this cabin. We're like, hey, no, like, what do you want to do? And here's my credit card. Too many people honestly, this is so horrible, but too many people in like the executive leadership roles in the company have like all of my credit card information on their Uber Eats, on their Uber, like everything, Netflix, HBO. It's just, I'm like, I just use the company, like, use my card, use my card, take it. Whatever I have to give, to make you happy, I will.
Wow. I've worked in organizations that, good job, Tim. Here's a gift card to a place that I'll never go to. And it's like, well, what's the point? And I love that. I was reading an article at some point, I don't know if it was this year or last year, about something similar to that, is asking your employees what gets them fired up, what gets them excited, and then using that information to, treat them. Go, you want to go to a cabin in the woods? Here you go. Or you love going to the spa? Here, it's on me. And I think it just builds, again, loyalty, but also resiliency in the team. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And I want to be like this, this like cool, Gen Z millennial company. And I think that this whole notion of like, I don't know, like the gift card to Applebee's, and you're like, great, thank you so much, I love Applebee's, it's not going to work anymore. And I think these employee incentive programs, a lot of them just, like I have a friend who works as a BDR, right, a business development rep, and they give like, oh, you get a discount to go to the gym. And I'm like, oh, great, why don't you pay for my gym membership? Because if you pay for my gym membership, which is, by the way, like most gym memberships, not that much, like $15, $30 a month, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to go take a class, and I'm going to be super productive when I work. This whole notion that we give discounts, right, but not just outwardly pay, I think is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'd be a fun follow-up podcast to just even talk about that and your thoughts on how to continue to not just incentivize a team, but keep them engaged and then reward. I think some people are motivated by just give me cash. I'll just put it in the bank. I'll earn interest on it. I'm good. But some people don't like that. They want to be spoiled in different ways. And so, yeah, it's fascinating conversation. And I think as we continue to see the world of work change to being remote or blend, employees have opportunities to go other places now. More so than they did before the pandemic. And so, meaning, you could be living in California, but working for a company in across the continent now, and be fully remote. So it's something that as leaders, we need to continue to think about. So I just wanted to, I think, we talked about your journey from all the political pushback. We've talked about going from a team of 2 to 8 to 60 or to 84 plus. And where do you see the company going? Like, where do you see this Leda Health in 6 months from now, a year from now?
200 people.
I love it.
So I want us to be, I talked to an advisor right before this, and we like to call it like the shadow army, right? It's like this army of people who are fighting for a different criminal justice system and systematic change. And that's what I want to continue to build. So not only building out the community feature, which I think I'm going to start devoting more time in my week to really bringing in the community portion of what we have the capabilities of. So I think it's really interesting not only to think about services, which are, great to kind of put out there, but also a, community piece of bringing everybody in to go and message back and forth and talk to each other and do webinars and really bring people into a community so they never have to feel isolated and alone. That's what I'm really excited about. And so that's what I'm going to start building, very soon, spending a lot of time. So it's not only on the services, portion, it's really on the community portion as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And, you've been through a lot, personally and professionally, and you're still going strong. I hear the passion in your voice. And so I know that there's a lot coming into your future. And so for those listening, those entrepreneurs, founders, managers, anybody who's listening and maybe just feeling down, feeling like giving up on their company or, throwing in the towel, what advice would you have for those folks listening?
First off, it's like, oh my God, don't give up. It can be so much worse, right? Like you got it. I often say that if you aren't disrupting something big enough and people aren't mad at you, right? Like, then you're doing something wrong, like people should be mad at you and people should not agree with you. And you take that adrenaline, take that spite, and be able to use it. I used to say when I was younger, I was like, the best energy I have for creating things is when I was broken up with, like romantically speaking, because every time I was romantically speaking, I was like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to look hot, and I'm going to show them what they're missing, right? And that's what, to the people that are feel like giving up, whether it's professionally, in their job, romantically, whatever it is, go out there and be like, I'm going to prove you wrong, right? Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do what I'm passionate about, and I'm going to kick ass at doing it. And I take that adrenaline, and trust me, there are times where I felt like I wanted to, just sleep forever and never wake up and never have to deal with talking to another reporter again, or, talking to any employee about sexual assault over and over again. And here I am. And I don't know what the exact science is, but it's just, figure out what makes you happy, figure out what you're passionate about. And once you figure that passion out, everything else is easy. And if there is a moment of time where you feel like, oh, I don't know what I want to do professionally, is this the right company for me to run? Really go back and identify what that passion is. And maybe it's because you aren't truly passionate about it, because when you are truly passionate about something, even in the hardest days, even in the days where you've been knocked down and everything feels like it's failing, you will continue to stand up. It's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Thanks for that. It has a lot of words of wisdom and experience packed in there. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit and hear your journey. And for those who are listening, as Madison says, understand and dig into what makes you, what gets you out of bed every day. What are you passionate about? And focus on that. So with that, again, just thank you for coming on, and maybe tell our listeners as we wrap up how they can maybe get a hold of you or find you, your website or whatnot.
Yeah, anyone, please reach out to me, MadisonCampbell.com. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on LinkedIn. Message me if you ever need anything. You can check us out at Leda.co. We're currently under a private beta, but please message me if you ever need any resources. We have support groups. We have access to lawyers. We have, I'll lend an ear if you're feeling like you don't have any passion left. And I'll tell you exactly how to bring that passion back to the forefront of whatever you're doing. I'm here for you. And I want to be a resource, to those folks, whether it's through a, traumatic situation like sexual assault, or trying to figure out what the next move is, in your professional life. I'm here. Please feel free to reach out. I'm only a click away.
Thanks again. And thanks for the wonderful offer to our listeners. And to those who are listening, if you have questions, comments, send them my way. And with that, we just hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care.
All right. Bye.